Heyo guys, welcome back. My name is HM and I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic, and if you're new here, the Swarm welcomes you. Guys, today we are talking TCG. I've actually been having a lot of questions from people over the past couple of months about the TCG and how to play it, and for some reason, of all people want me to try and give some tips and tricks and rulings, because I'm gonna preface this. I am pretty casual when it comes to this game, and I'm still kind of learning, but I'd like to think that I'm capable enough to actually do something like this, so I'm going to try my best to help you figure out what you want in your deck. Alright, so I'm going to start this with what I feel to be the most important part of this whole process of deck building, and that is choosing your team. What things should you actually go out looking for? Is there something specific that you're going to need to succeed? And honestly, just play whatever you want. If you want to buy something that looks cool, go for it. I can't promise that it'll be the best, but honestly, this game to me is all about fun, and if you just want to have fun and play Bakugan and roll some balls, just get the things you like. But if you want really good stuff, I got some of these in the box still. And honestly, these are about to be off shelves, the first wave. Mythics. Mythic Bakugan are such a good entry-level Bakugan to go pick up, because these things are all super, super strong, and they're $5. So I would definitely recommend going to Five Below and just picking up a bunch of Mythics, because they're all stupidly good and they're stupidly cheap. So if that would be my first recommendation, that's it. But it depends on how you play card games. If you want a team that does draw power, things like that, very specific things, Aquos is really good for draw power. Ventus is really good to let you play things. Haos is good for other reasons, like big B power boost, but these all bring very specific things, and we're going to go in depth with each and every one of them. I'm going to give some pointers with those, but seriously guys, go pick up Mythics if you're brand new. As for the cards, that's a tough one. You're going to have to actually go online and find a reliable seller that sells Bakugan reboot trading cards, not the original. Don't go getting the original, go make sure you get the reboot. There's, let's see, there's 3 sets per season, and there's only 2 seasons that they make cards, so there's only 6 sets, so make sure you're, buying cards for the reboot. But, that's going to be the toughest part, is actually getting the cards. I can't really recommend a place to get them, because they're just not easy to find. Hashtag we want cards, guys. This is going to be a very, very long and kind of sad video, because this TCG is kind of, done for the most part. We're really trying to keep it alive, but seriously, figure out what you want to use for your team. I would recommend against using mono teams, so if you want to run all Ventus, it'll probably put you at a disadvantage. I would highly recommend mix and matching, because each faction brings very good things that work with each other. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the factions. Alright guys, buckle down, because honestly, this is my personal favorite faction. It pairs well with a lot of stuff, and there is a lot to take in with it, because it pretty much does just about everything. Besides damage victor and energy ramping, this deck has so much going for it that it is just insane. You've got B power boost, you got bigger B power boost, you got draw power, you got enemy destruction, or Evo destruction, sorry, you've got core control, you've got deck foresight, so you can see what's coming up in your deck, you've got some shield support and some big damage, you've got even bigger damage. There's just so much that this deck has going for it that it's crazy. Now, if I had any recommendations, I would pair this with Pyrus in an instant, because the amount of damage that you get from this deck, and just the deck future sight, pairs so insanely well with some of the cards in Pyrus. You'll have Air Zero, which lets you play the top card of your deck for free if it's not a flip. Having deck foresight with, I don't know, maybe one of the best heroes in the game. This lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You can choose one of those cards to play for free if it's a hero. It's insane. There is so much that this deck brings. It's got hero support. Again, I wanted to talk kind of more about this, because this is kind of its main thing, is either hero support or where did it go? Consort. Core control. Core control is insane for this deck. This is what it wants to be doing. It wants to be stealing cores. It wants to be having the most cores. Because where's domination? Here we go. Here's a good one. Domination. If your Bakugan hold the most Baku cores, draw a card. That one's a pretty simple one. There are some insane domination effects. So it is seriously nothing to be slept on. This faction is crazy. Here's another one. Here's another good one. If your Bakugan hold the most Baku cores, draw 2 cards instead. Two costs. Here's a huge boost for having the most Baku cores, 1500 for 5. That's really worth it. Haos just has so much going for it, like actually insane. And then I haven't even gotten started on some of the other like unique things it brings. This faction brings support to Green Fists. So if you want to run Green Fists, this is definitely the deck to be doing it, because those Green Fists are no longer a liability because you get plus 600 for landing on them. And you can use Consort, right? You can use Consort wherever the heck I put it. There it is. You can use Consort to just draw it. to just put the core on the Bakugan you want. And boom, there you go. You've got, what is that, 750? Just from playing Consort? I mean, that's not bad. I mean, you still got to play Holy Flame, but it's about the playmaking. Like, that might not be the best thing to do. There's probably better things to do. But anyway, Haos also brings Frost Strike. And Frost Strike is a very unique mechanic. It makes flip cards cost more to play for your opponent. So if you're winning a battle, you might want to pop one of these down just to really make that attack hurt more, because they'll have to pay 3 energy to actually block that attack versus however much their flip card costs. It's additive, so if their flip card costs 2, you'll be making them pay 5. So, I mean, it's something to consider. Some Bakugan have it actually built in. I don't personally run it, but I'd like to try to. You've got hero cards in here that actually make other heroes cost less to play, which is actually crazy. Then you have heroes that, you know, give you draw power. Like, Haos just does it all, for the most part. Like, it doesn't do literally everything, but it does a lot. And I would highly recommend, if you're going to play this, you should definitely put a Haos Bakugan on your team. Here's one that just gives you plus 200 for each hero you have in play. Leah can make them free. You could have tons and tons of heroes on the field and get a ton off of this for 2. So I feel like this card's rising in usability, and I'm glad that I have a bunch of them. I might actually experiment with them in the future for an actual hero deck. But seriously, guys, this is the deck to be playing if you want to run anything that is just... It is just a safe bet. Playing heroes are super cool because they last. They will only be over if somebody stops them, if they destroy the hero card. Having tons of heroes can be additive. So if you have 3 of these, I'm pretty sure you can do this 3 times in a row. Which I don't know if that's... Actually, I don't know how this one works. Don't quote me on that. But like ones that give you like B power or allow you to draw, like Colonel Armstrong, if you open, you know, or when you attack, you draw a card. If you have 3 of these, you can draw 3. Like that is actually how hero cards work. So seriously, it is all about how you decide to play. If you're going to run Bakugan that bring Green Fists, I would highly recommend running Holy Flame. This deck just has a bunch of interesting gimmicks. Even the flip cards are kind of nuts, but I won't go into too much more on that. But seriously, Haos is like my top pick. Alright, next up we have Ventus. And Ventus is super cool because it does one thing that, well, actually, Pyrus does it too. We'll talk about Pyrus last. But Ventus is very good for something we call energy ramping. And what is energy ramping? It is the ability to actually play cards. So energy is extremely important for that. So Ventus has a lot of that in its kit to allow you to play some of the most expensive cards in the game. So you'll notice a lot of these cards will say, energize this uncharged for Ventus. Not every card's going to do it, of course, but a lot of them will, because it's this was what it was designed to do. It was designed to reduce damage or reduce B power, and these kinds of things just go on and on. There are specifically cards to energize things uncharged, meaning that if you energize it uncharged, it's already used. So you're not going to be able to use it for that turn. You'll have to wait until next turn to actually be able to use the energy. But this is a good way to get energy for your next turn if you think you're going to lose, you know, that kind of stuff. But honestly, this faction is also built to sabotage. So here's a reroll, another way to energize. So if you miss, reroll, you can use this and it'll be energy next turn. So that's cool. We've got Green Fist support again, another really good option if you're planning on running Green Fist Bakugan. It's only 1 cost, and it allows you to energize this uncharged, gives you 2 damage. The 2 damage is negligible, but Green Fist support is great, because Green Fists really need it. They are the weakest cores. Then you have crazy things like this. This is one of the newest cards. You must reroll your Bakugan. If you open on the reroll, you may energize the top 2 cards of your deck uncharged. Then 100B for each energy card you have in play. So there's a lot of cards that are centered around having more energy. But this, to me, honestly, this is one of the super early cards from the very first set. This thing is still insane. You're not going to get the 15 energy cards, like, hardly at all, if ever. But when you open a Bakugan, you may energize the top card of your deck. Now, be wary that when you do this, you are essentially using your life to gain energy. But this will enable you to actually get a bunch of energy to play your big cards. Again, another great pair with Haos, with Leah, because you can just play Winton for free, and you can get 3 of him and then do this 3 times. So, another great pair. Let's see, what else do I have over here? We've got more Sabotage cards. The opposing Bakugan must reroll. So if your opponent's, hitting his rolls, make him stop. You can destroy energy, you can destroy heroes and turn them into energy from your opponent, which is super cool. And actually, you could change your hero to energy too if you really want to. Non-Ventus Bakugan minus 300, so that's really good too. Then you got your really big B-power reducers, so these are really obnoxious. The only problem with reductions is there's a stat in this game called Shadow Strike. If the opponent has Shadow Strike, it'll be like an S with a sword through it. You cannot reduce their B-power, so these cards effectively become useless if the opponent is running Shadow Strike, which is rare, but it can happen. Some cards can grant it. Here's a crazy one. 4 cost, minus 800 to the opposing Bakugan, and you may reroll your Bakugan, so a reduction and a reroll. Here's another keyword. Turbo, if you have the most energy cards in play, minus 400 instead. So, 1 for minus 400. You have to be ahead in energy, though, so that can be kind of difficult at times if you're not focusing on it. This one gives you more damage for each energy card you have in play. And arguably, one of the best cards in Ventus. Nature's Power, given non-Ventus Bakugan minus 500, 4-1. It's kind of situational, but Ventus is pretty widely ran, so you're probably going to use this quite a bit. This is going to counter a lot of the really, really good stuff in the game, like Pyrus and Aquos, anything that's not Ventus. So this is by far the best staple to pick up for this faction in particular, and I would highly recommend throwing it index if you're going to use it. But that's, oh wait, no, actually I got one more weird thing. Here's another really weird thing Ventus can do. It can change your base B-power for a turn. So this card is 3 cost, and it makes your Bakugan's B-power become 1000. So, meaning, you have a really low B-power Bakugan, like our little friend Platinum Sectonoid back here, our elemental channel mascot. His B-power is 100. I can turn his B-power to 1000 in the turn. That 1000, that is its base B-power. So that is super good for certain plays. It just helps out. It's a big B-power return. The lower your Bakugan is, I genuinely think this card is super cool if you actually want to run it. I think there's another one that's even higher, but that's kind of situational. But this is just... Ventus is one of those really gimmicky things where it's going to get you a bunch of energy. Hopefully you draw the cards you need, so you can actually keep getting more energy after playing the expensive things. But this is the huge hitter. It pairs really well with Pyrus because Pyrus also does, like, temporary energy stuff. So if you pair them together, you'll have a ton of energy for your turn. It's just absolutely crazy. Ventus is a very good pick. I would highly recommend using it. Alright, so our next faction is kind of a weird one. We're going to talk about Darkus. Darkus has a really interesting playstyle that, back when the reboot launched, it was really strong, and it still is. It's very niche, though. They have a lot of discarding and sabotage. First off, I want to talk about Sacrifice as a mechanic. So, as you'll see, this has plus 200B, and Sacrifice. You may discard a card for 800B instead. What Sacrificing is you discard a card from your own hand to gain a better effect. So, there's actually quite a few of these that are really strong, but require you to get rid of cards to do so, and that is very dangerous. And they're actually relatively expensive too. So, you have to kind of weigh your pros and cons here for this kind of stuff, because this could actually end up costing you the match. Sacrifice can be good, but Darkus's main gimmick is making your opponent discard cards. So, we've got some interesting discard stuff here. We have a hero that rewards you for discarding cards, which can be very useful. We've got things that allow cards to be played for free. Crank up my brightness a bit. If this is discarded, it gets played for free. So you can kind of see where Darkus kind of comes in. Here's another one, another card that gets played for free. And here's a mono Darkus thing for making your opponent discard cards. You can choose to discard cards, you know, just like things like that. Darkus is a little less, I would say, self-sufficient. That's the thing that it kind of hinders it. Some of the new cards, I actually don't remember too many of the new Darkus cards, but we're sticking with like early sets because they're fairly easy to get. I would imagine you could probably just get them online. But Darkus also has Hero Destruction, which is really good. Reroll stuff. There they are. I was about to ask. Shadow Strike. Here is that Shadow Strike symbol. It's like an S with the sword through it. I would do this, but if I readjust my camera, it'll go all orange. But Shadow Strike makes it so your Bakugan's stats can't be reduced. So if your Bakugan has 500 B power and 5 damage, it can't go below that. And it also can't change. And another thing Darkus does, which I don't know if it's specifically a good thing, it kind of doubles up on boosts. So here's one that gives you 300 B power and 6 damage. I personally would prefer if the faction itself that you're playing would provide you with one big boost to B power or one big boost to damage. It's not the game plan of Darkus, but there's a lot of cards in here that do this. So, I mean, weigh your pros and cons. I would recommend going with something that's one or the other because having both of them is not going to make you win. B power is going to make you win or damage is going to make you win, depending on the scenario. Now, this is interesting. It's expensive. It's actually an older card. It's expensive to play, but you get 100 B for each damage your Bakugan has. So if you're running like a 10 damage Bakugan at base, this is giving you 1000 B power for 4, and then you can kind of add further if you're playing certain heroes that do it. I think this is a neat card. I think this could be usable if you actually have the right stuff for it. And then you have our kind of weird gimmicky things. My friend loves running this. 2 cost for 100 B power for each flip card in your discard pile. This can be devastating. You're highly defensive and you're highly offensive late game. I would not sleep on this card. This thing can be insanely good. And then you have things that make your flips cost less, which is something. Easier defense. And then we have C. This is another hero. I mean, granted, like I said, I'm only doing older cards for now, just to give you a general idea of how the card game is actually like played when it first started. There are some nutty stuff now, but this is an interesting one. This one gives you Shadow Strike to your Darkus Bakugan, and if you deal 10 or more damage in an attack, you can draw 3 cards. I like it for the Shadow Strike, especially if you're going up against Ventus or things that are reducing, or like relying on reducing your B power or damage. This guy will stop them very quick. 2 energy? I didn't realize it was actually that cheap. That's really good. But yeah, Darkus is a very reliant faction, I would say. It would like require you to run other things to help support it to be annoying, because it is a very annoying faction. Your opponent's going to be having to discard cards at the end of every turn. It's absolutely a good thing, especially if you're running Bakugan that also enable you to do things for discarding cards. It is seriously good. I don't know if I would recommend it all the time, but it is something that is good if you want to add some discards or add some bigger B power boosts for cheaper, if you're willing to sacrifice the cards for it. Alright, so this next faction is by far the weirdest case in all of factions. So, Aurelus, back when the reboot launched, Aurelus was released with no cards. So Aurelus doesn't have a very large card pool. It still doesn't. But its whole gimmick was to offset the lack of cards. They usually had stronger stats. So, honestly, that kind of fell off too. A lot of Aurelus Bakugan became much weaker just because there were cards. So honestly, I would not recommend this faction to beginners because it's a very weird one and relies a lot on what your other factions are on the team. We're going to show off some of these cards because, honestly, I really don't have that many of them because there's not many of them. But they do bring some weird stuff to the table, which is good, I guess. Their keyword is called Battle Mastery. It allows you to choose one effect or the other on a card. So this one is choose one, 3 Frost Strike, or Double Strike. Double Strike lets you attack twice with that damage number that you have, which is cool. 3 costs, I guess it's... Honestly, Pyrus can just do that. There is a hero card that lets you choose both of the things in Battle Mastery, which is cool. We have a couple of those. Here's one for B power and damage. I don't know, man. These cards are so, like, hit or miss. I think they could be good if you manage to get the hero that lets you get both. I have a bunch of those. And then we have this one that allows you to make your opponent discard 3 cards or you draw 3 cards. This could be really good if you could get it out for free or choose 2. That's not bad. But seriously, Aurelus brings such weird things. There's also... I don't even have them out. There are cards that have an effect called Aurelus power on them. And they reduce costs of your cards on certain factions like Aquos, Pyrus. It's literally just an effect on the card. They're usually not too good. It's either like, hey, it reduces the cost of this card by 1 or 2, or you get more damage or something like that. Aurelus genuinely is such a risky faction to run, so I would highly advise casuals to kind of like stay away from it because it is not the best. We also have some interesting things to talk about here. Here's one of the new faction cards for Aurelus in the newest set. And this one is really good. This is probably the best Aurelus card you can get for just getting things in your hand that you need. Reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. You may put 1 action, BakuGear, Evo, and Hero card. Reveal this way into your hand, and then you can put the rest of them at the bottom. So if you get flip cards and whatnot, you can put your flips at the bottom, so you know you're going to have a block at the very end of the game. And the other thing that Aurelus does bring, and I didn't want to talk about this because we're going to talk about it in another part of this video, that would be gear. Aurelus brings a ton of gear to the table, and these are all relatively strong. They're very expensive, though. I would almost recommend running these with Ventus or Pyrus to get the energy needed. Like, this one's 7, but it has some crazy effects on it. I'm pretty sure this is banned in most places. Aurelian Accelerator's nice. You get armor rating, which blocks some damage on an attack. It reduces a damage or an attack by 4 or something. This counts as 4 as a flipped card. Here's another one. Yeah, Aurelus is just weird. Aurelus brings weird stuff. I would recommend sticking with your basic factions. Pyrus, Aquos, Ventus, Haos. There's just so much that I would recommend staying away from this. Even though I love it. This is still one of my favorite factions, so if you're ballsy, go for it. Highly would recommend to run it with, like, the best stuff. And, yeah, I guess we'll just move on to the next one after that, because there's not really much more to be said. I actually found some of our Aurelus power cards moving into our next faction. Here's some examples of what Aurelus power can do for you. It actually can give you, like, relatively good B power boosts or damage boosts. There's a couple in, like, other factions that allow cards to be played for less. But here are 2 examples before we move into Pyrus. And man, oh man, Pyrus is crazy. I don't even know where to start. Like, Pyrus is so wild with how much it can do. It's got temporary energy stuff, where it gives you a certain amount of energy for paying the energy cost for a turn, and then it goes away. You've got... Oh, geez, here we go. Here's some energy destruction. Yeah, Pyrus has energy destruction. What else we got? Hero destruction. Like, it's relatively expensive, but man, dude, Pyrus is really, really oppressive with some of the things it can do. What do we got here? We got energy for holding Bakugan, so we have core control. What else we got? Here's another one. This one removes enemy Bakugans and negates their effects. You can put them back on the field any way you want. Here's another one that same deal. Wow. Yeah, Pyrus has a lot going for it. Here's another card. Draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards, so you have some draw power. You could get rid of your hand if you don't really want it. It's not as good as it could be. And then we have one of the keywords for Pyrus, and that is Fury. Fury, if you have no cards in your hand, you get to do an effect. So this one allows you to draw 2 cards. So again, more draw power, a little bit of V power. This one is more V power. Here's some damage for Fury. And then here is a hero that allows you to get more damage off of having Fury active at, like, all times, so you get more damage on your attacks. I'm not sure if this actually increases a Bakugan's base damage, So I'm not sure if that would contribute to damage victor. I would assume it does, but the way that's worded is very odd. Then we have another interesting thing that Pyrus can do, and only Pyrus can do. It can make direct attacks to your opponent without winning a battle. So this one allows you to make a Pyrus attack for 1, and you can re-roll your Bakugan. This is a great staple. There are Bakugan that also do damage when they open, like Pyrus Serpentes. I think it's Evo does, and it is just so crazy to pair this with it, because it'll just be doing damage over and over again without even having to win. So that is an insanely good strategy to run. Pyrus is just bringing so much. We haven't even gotten into the good stuff yet for Pyrus. But Pyrus brings sizable B-power boosts, sizable damage boosts, and hey, look, another one that's just both. That's just both. Let me dig through my deck, because I have some of the better cards. I don't have Dan Kuzo, but Dan Kuzo allows you to play cards for free. Yeah, for free. So here's another interesting one. Pyrus on it. This is, a lot of these cards are going to be from the newest sets. I want to keep it to like the first set, but here's an idea of how good things have gotten over the years. Reveal the top card of your deck. You may play any non-flip cards revealed this way for free. And Empower. You may pay an additional 3 energy to return it to your hand. So we've got some extra keywords. Let's see, what else do we got in here? Oh, good old Super Fuel. This card is probably one of the most expensive cards in Bakugan. You must re-roll your Bakugan. If you open on the re-roll, the next card you play this turn costs 3 less to play. So you can play things for much cheaper if you actually land on this re-roll. So that's already super good. And if you imagine, you get like damage stuff too. Here we go. Here's damage victor. This turn, the victor is decided by the highest damage instead of B-power. So those Bakugan with really high damage, they can be usable. Even in Ventus, you know, anything. Like, you can use this card on anything so long as you're bringing the faction Pyrus. What else we got? Again, Song of Fire, temporary energy. Another damage victor hero. And it gives you 2 damage always, which is super cool. Oh boy, Air Zero, one of my favorite cards. This is why Pyrus pairs so well with Leah. So, okay, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is not a flip card, you may play it for free. Now check this. Pair this with Leah. When you open a Bakugan, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. If one of those cards is a hero, you may play it for free. Sorry, I'm trying to read this through the camera. You see where this is going, right? This doesn't require you to put those cards on the bottom of your deck. You could have full deck foresight on what's coming next. So you can always know what's coming next, and you can play it for free with Air Zero. Well, for 2. That's crazy. So you can make some huge plays off of this card. I still think Air Zero is so slept on. And, get this, you could play something dumb like this for free if you know it's coming up. I was actually running Pyrus, Darkus, and Haos together for this combo specifically. When you play this, a Bakugan gets plus 5,000. Sorry, I've been talking for a very long time. Yeah, this is... Air Zero is nuts. Here's another newer one. This one's really good. Rapid Fire. The second Rapid Fire card you play this turn is free. That's a keyword. A lot of cards in the newer sets have this keyword. You can reroll your Bakugan. So you can pretty much play this, get your reroll, and then you can choose another Rapid Fire card you have and play it for free alongside of this. So, guys, Pyrus is a fantastic choice. I would argue it's the best faction in the game. Aquos is definitely right behind it, and we're going to talk about that next because, holy moly, Aquos has some crazy stuff. Alright, lastly, but certainly not least, we have Aquos. Now, Aquos is really, really good at draw power. You can draw tons and tons and tons of cards off of this faction, and you can also get gigantic B power boosts. The whole thing for this deck is chaining cards together. Flow is a really, really good keyword. This is what it actually launched with back when the reboot actually started. Flow, if you played another card this turn, X thing happens. So this one will give you 1,000 B power for playing another card with this. And with staples that this came with already, this was a terror. Because you literally just get 1,400 B power. 1,400 for 3. It's wild, and this works with literally any card you play alongside of this. So you could play this card, and I don't know, another card like this. Here's a great Aurelus power card. Liquid Darts. If you have an Aurelus Bakugan on your team, this costs 2 less to play. 400 B power. So 1 cost. Now you're getting a ton of B power. So you can already see where the kind of combo playmaking comes in. And you're going to be drawing cards over and over and over again. I got a little pile over here. Let's just look at how many draw cards we have. Here's a hero that lets you just draw cards every time you open a Bakugan. Boom. 200 B power. Draw card. Draw two cards. Draw card. Damage. And it's Aurelus power. -2 on the cost. It's, Jesus, 8 cost. 5 cards. 5. Draw card. Frost Strike for each other card you played this turn. So there you go. There's another combo. 2 costs. You can draw a card and you get Frost Strike on your team attacks and your attacks. It's crazy. It's crazy. A deep dive, a reroll, and you can draw a card. Draw 2 cards. Return it to the bottom of your deck. You're practically healing. You're getting your card value back. Hydro Barrage. More flow. Draw a card. Draw a card. Flow. 2 cards instead. Wow, I can't even speak. I've been speaking for so long, guys. I'm sorry. But dude, this is wild. Aquos has so much going for it, and we're not even into the good stuff yet. I'll be talking about the good stuff after all this, with like dual factions and fusions, and just God, there's just so much to talk about. Utility-wise though, Aquos has some pretty cool stuff. We have Aquify. This allows you to swap Bakugors with your opponent. That's super cool. Nothing else does that, as far as I'm aware of. So this is a pretty neat thing. If you want to really mess up your opponent, you could have a whole deck of trap cores and land on the traps intentionally and swap them. And then you have action negation, which is super nice. You can negate actions that cost 3 or less for 2. That's really good. I think there's a better one that I have in here. Yeah, here we go. This one just allows you to negate an action, and you can copy its effect and make it your own. That's really cool. Triple Blast Cannon. There you go. One more for negate an action card. Any action card. And then Fixation. You can retract a Bakugan that did not open this turn, so you can stall team attacks. Aquos just has so much crazy stuff going for it. You've got some really interesting playmaking with things like this. More damage for each card you played this turn for 2. Like, Aquos is just wild. I would highly recommend, if you want all the draw power in the world, you like drawing cards, you like playing combos, Aquos is for you, and you would not be missing, or you'll be missing out on so much if you don't play it. It is so strong, it pairs so well with everything, it helps you get things quicker. The only thing that's scary about drawing is your deck is your life, and once you deck out, that's it. So, draw responsibly, and hopefully you don't deck out. You'll get your cards quick, and yeah, Aquos is a powerhouse. Now that we have all the factions out of the way, I want to talk about the other cards that we can put in our decks, because there's actually quite a few other types of cards that are super good to have in your deck depending on what your team is. If your Bakugan doesn't have any Evos, we could run gear. I've got a couple of them in the back right now. We'll talk about those a little bit more, but first, I want to talk about the thing that I just said. Evos. Now, Evos are kind of tricky because they do go in your deck and they take up deck space, but what they do is you pay an energy cost to play them over top of your character card. So, for instance, this Darkus Serpentes is already kind of decent. It's an older one. It's from Battle Brawlers, but if you have the Evo card and you pay 5 energy when you have it in your hand, it actually gives it a bunch of buffs. And sometimes it can provide additional effects on the card. It can give you bonus stats for landing on certain cores. And this one was kind of one of my personal favorites from year 1, so I wanted to include it in this because I feel like it's a good energy return. It has an interesting gimmick. There is just so much depth to this game. Like, if you had a core steal like we talked about earlier, or core removal, this makes this Evo a little bit less valuable, but it is big, and it's actually very good. The cool thing too is, even if you evolve a Bakugan, it can still equip BakuGear. So if you want to keep buffing out your favorites, you can do that. But remember, the thing about Evos is they have to correlate to the figure. The way to check these kinds of things are pay attention to when you buy them and what sets they come out of. if you look at the very bottom right of a card, let me see if I can get this in focus a little bit better. Right down here in the bottom right of the card, you'll see a line of numbers and letters, and the very last letters of these, I guess these codes, are the set they come from. And this Evo actually comes from Bakugan Resurgence. This is a Battle Planet Bakugan, so as long as this Bakugan matches the Evo of the same season, and it's the only one in that season, so like earlier I had a picture of the card sets before we actually started talking about them. There's 6 sets. Resurgence is 2, so this one actually is a rare instance where the Evo is, it's still in the same year. Usually you have to go by what they are in the year, so year 1 was all set, it was set 1 through 3, and then year 2 was set 3 through 6. So this is the Evo for this, and then you have the instances of Ultra Bakugan, or Ultra Evolutions. So sometimes you'll have Titan Ultra Serpentes, and that is actually a different figure. It would look like, let's see if I have one sitting back here. I do. I have an Aquos one. I might have the Evo card in here somewhere, but there are differences between the figures. This is an Ultra Serpentes, so you're going to want to make sure that you know the differences between the core version of Bakugan and the Ultras for the sake of year 1 of Bakugan. They kind of fade away from that later in the seasons. Right now we're on year 4, so it's been 2 years since we've had another card set. But yeah, Evos are a super good thing to throw in your deck. They are a little costly at times, and some of them aren't great, so make sure you're paying attention to how much B-Power you're actually getting back on these returns. And the nice thing about Evos is once you get them on there, they're pretty strong, and they're kind of hard to stop unless you're playing the right factions to get rid of evolution cards. So I guess just be careful with that. And yeah, seriously, I always run Evos. These are like my favorite things of this game, and yeah, I just really like them. There's also, actually, let me talk about some other ones here. Now, these ones, personally, I don't think they're very good. Let me see. I do have a Trox Nobilius. Okay, so here is Ultra Trox and Nobilius. This is a fusion. So the fusion character card starts off with them unfused, and then you have to pay an energy cost to fuse them, and then that side of the card is actually, let me see, yeah, I do have one here. So this is a fusion card. This is not the one for Trox and Nobilius Ultra, but this is Dragonite and Treacherous, and you can see that there's a energy cost on the card. It's 3 costs to fuse. So once you fuse them, you flip them over, and you get, this is pretty much a built-in Evo card. I guess we're going to talk about fusion since we're here. So this is a built-in Evo card, basically. You don't have to draw this. This is under your Bakugan at all times. But there is a rare instance of Diamond Evolutions for fusions. And these are so... I don't want to say bad. I mean, a lot of them... You know what? I am going to say bad. Hold on. I might have the character cards. Hold on. I'm going to check out... I'm going to go find this one for Trox and Nobilius. Alright, I got it. Now, even looking at this, it's ridiculous. So, this is the character card for our Fusion Trox and Nobilius Ultra. Now, if you'll notice right off the bat, the extremely high 8 energy cost to fuse. And this poor guy is already not very good on the fusion side. So, 1608. The thing that's really confusing me about these is this Evo for this fusion is actually better than the Evo. And when you fuse a Bakugan, you'll notice that there's an F on the bottom of the card. This is what allows you to play fusion type cards on them, which are ones that have effects that are like, I actually might have some of them over here in gear cards, yeah. So some of these actually have these little Fs on the card in the effects. And this one is for a fusion Bakugan, so you have to fuse the Bakugan before you can actually use these cards on fusions. But, back to the topic at hand. There are Diamond Fusion Evos, and you actually have to fuse your fusion to use these. And I'm very confused because this is the Ventus Aurelus one, and it is just objectively worse? I don't know, maybe this is one of those instances where this can be used before the normal fusion? I'm actually not sure. So if anybody actually knows how these work, looking at it, it seems like that this would be a way to bypass a really expensive 8-cost fusion that this has. But to my understanding, this has to be fused to play this over it. But that does not seem worth it. I would stay completely away from these, because this just seems like it makes your Bakugan worse. So I might have it backwards, but I wanted to cover fusions just a little bit here, because there are some weird oddballs that actually do have Diamond Evos for fusion. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing, which would be gear cards. Alright, so gear cards are definitely something you want to have in your deck, because they are incredibly flexible, and they are a part of every single set of Year 2. So from Armored Elite all the way up to Shields of Estroya, they're all in them, and they are super good. And they're kind of a pseudo-evolution. But the crazy thing is they're relatively cheap, and I mean, gear destruction is a thing, but they are so versatile on what they can give your Bakugan and the utility that they can provide for your decks. So first off, we'll talk about these fusion ones again. These can only be used on fusion Bakugan to get these effects. You can actually play them on anything, but to get the bonuses, they need to be fused. So you can play these on anything so long as you pay the energy for them. But there are fusion support ones if you want to run fusion. This one's really cool. Extremely expensive, but this one's super cool. There's so much variety. Then you get these other ones that have these little shields on the side. These actually count as multiple instances of blocks. So if you're taking damage when you're actually playing the game, when you flip one of these from your deck while you're taking damage, this will cost 2 damage instead of the single 1. So you flip it, it's 1, and then you do 2 more for the shield. So these are super nice. These are just damage reductions. These ones will actually let you do things if they're flipped from your deck as damage. So you can pay 2 energy to energize a card from your hand uncharged if it flips from your deck as damage, which is super cool. There are so many of these. Here's one that's boost, and it gives you more damage reduction. But guys, seriously, there are so many of these. Like, so many of these. Yeah, those are always something I would recommend having in your deck. Then you have more utility ones that kind of let you just do certain things. So this one lets you draw stuff. Ooh, sorry, I had to sneeze. This one lets you draw stuff. This one allows you to get a Green Fist off the field for your Green Fist decks and stuff, which is super cool. Here's one that just reduces B power. Like, there's just so much. There's Frost Strike. Here's even straight damage. You can just do straight damage if you play this. Like, there's just so much utility. And then there's usually these cheaper ones that just do very little, but they still block some damage if you're lucky, if they're relatively new. And then you've got these ones. These ones are actually really interesting. There are some BakuGear that can be equipped as a second BakuGear. So you can actually double up on these. So a lot of these are relatively expensive because having 2 BakuGear is nuts, but look at this! These are permanent until they're destroyed. These are basically Evo cards. They just go on your Bakugan once you play them. I'll show you how to do that after this, but I just wanted to show some of these cards because they are so strong. So now that we've got some of these out of the way and like some of the ideas, we'll look right back at our friend Serpentis here and show how to equip gear cards. So once you pay the energy cost, let's say, let's go ahead and throw, here we go. We'll go ahead and throw on Shield Wings, right? You pay the 3, and you get to add this to a Bakugan. These gear cards are utility cards, so to do that, you pretty much just pay the energy, and you put it under your character card, and you let it sit right under here like this. So now, this shows that your Bakugan has plus 200 B power and 2 damage. So that's pretty much how a gear works, and the nice thing about that is that stays until it's destroyed. You can also double up and still play an Evo on top of that. So now you can see where the strategy comes in about buffing your favorites, having a team lead or a carry, and then having like support Bakugan that steal cores from other Bakugan or keep others from doing team attacks, things like that. And then you can double up even further with these double up cards. So this one can be attached to a character as a second BakuGear. So let's say you manage to get off a Pyrus Energizer. Here you go. Plus 505 extra. Same deal. You just put it right back under the next gear. So here you go. You just got a big, beefy boy. This is one of the things I love about Bakugan. You can kind of just keep buffing the Bakugan you love for it to just be this monster. And then you have the card support. Like all the cards we talked about, you can bring so much to the table and just keep buffing your favorites with all these crazy cards and all these things. It's just up to you to decide what you want in your deck. Well, I guess now that we've talked about gear, we've only got one more type of card to talk about, and I'll go ahead and get those out right now because those are the least I have of, and I'm actually kind of unsure with how they actually work, so we're gonna go ahead and go into it. Geogan. Geogan are very interesting because they actually do require a toy, unlike all of these gear cards. Geogan are very different in the sense of they don't go on your main team of 3. They actually go in your deck, and you have to draw them. And once you draw them in your hand, you have to use the toy to actually play the card. So, for instance, I've actually got a Geogan over here. And this is our Diamond Stinger. I'm going to go ahead and close it up. But the interesting thing about Geogan are they kind of set in as your substitutes. So if you're kind of not feeling confident that you're going to win a battle, and you have the card for it in your hand, I actually might have... Yeah, here we go. I do have the Diamond Stinger card. Cool. The Diamond Stinger card. So you have to draw this from your deck. You have to pay its energy cost to play it. You can use it as a reroll or a substitute. So you can do it before a roll. You can do it after you miss a roll. And they are extremely strong. There are some that are kind of not worth it, but this one is very strong, very high energy cost. And the way you actually play these in the physical game is, I'm not even kidding, you have to drop them from a card lengths up onto whatever your target is. So you have to be 1 card length above, and you just drop it on a core. Just like that. That's how you play them. And I'm super torn on them because personally, I don't dislike them. I just really like rolling things, and I feel like that's the whole thing of Bakugan, and just dropping something on the field isn't as satisfying to me, but it is very good. If that is something you want to do, and like put a bunch of Geogan in your deck, you can. Like there is no, the only limit to this game is you're only allowed to have 3 copies of a card. So you can like actually have a deck full of Geogan and maybe do fine. I mean, they're all relatively expensive, so you'd have to kind of weigh your pros and cons here. You wouldn't get team attacks, but you would be like probably winning a lot of matches if you have the energy and you have the proper ones to do so. But we'll go ahead and just go through some of these because Geogan are such a weird thing, and you do need the figures for all of them, but they all do like relatively interesting things depending on what you land on. And man, that's some cool artwork. The diamond artwork is really cool for these. But here's a 5-cost one, 6 cost. This one allows you to do a team attack. That's what that T stands for. So if this wins, you just initiate your team attack with however many Bakugan you have open. The thing that I'm very confused about is how do they contribute? Can you equip gear to them? What, like, because they go away after you finish the battle. Now I'm asking questions to people that might see this because I actually don't really use these very much. This one's actually a really good Geogan. Wow, 2 cost? Seriously, like these are so flexible, and if you're okay with dropping the Geogan on the field, this is pretty much what you get yourself into. Like there's all kinds of playmaking with these. This one's got a core removal. Wow. That one's got a core removal. These ones are from Evolution. So seriously, guys, Geogan are cool. I don't personally use them, but they are very, very viable. So you have to, that's the thing about Bakugan, is you have to weigh the kinds of things that you want in your deck. Do you want gear? Do you want more good action cards? Do you want Evos? Like, there's just so much. Geogan, like, so much. But yeah, guys, that is the kind of first small, I guess, deep dive of what kind of cards we have for the TCG. Now, I'm not going to go over everything yet. I just wanted to talk about all of these, like, different types of cards and the things you could look out for. If I were to recommend anything, every card set is good. Like, if you want specific cards, season, or set 4 and up, no, yeah, set 4 and up has, like, all of the gear cards, so if you want gear, go for anything that's from year 2. And then if you want anything like Evo related, you could easily get Evos from Age of Aurelus or Bakugan Resurgence, which is set 2 and 3. And fusion stuff is like set 5 and 6. So there's so much to talk about. Like, again, I never feel like I'm qualified to talk about this stuff because I can't like keep it short. And there's so much to talk about. Like, it shouldn't be too daunting. This game is actually fairly easy to play, but we're going to talk about that in another video because I just wanted to break down the factions and what they bring so I can help you figure out what you actually want to play. So hopefully with all this info that I've kind of dumped on you, this is enough for you to get a good idea how you would want to play Bakugan if you get the chance. Anyway, guys, we're going to go ahead and cut to the outro now. I actually kind of pre-recorded it after or before all this because I honestly didn't know how I want to approach this. So we're going to go ahead and skip over to past Hayden, and he's going to say goodbye to you guys. And I am going to say goodbye to you right now. Goodbye. Okay, so I know that was probably a lot to take in, but I assure you that this game is very simple. There's really not a lot to it. I mean, there's a lot of thinking and strategy involved, but as a TCG goes, this is much simpler and, honestly, in my opinion, much more fun. There is a layer of skill to it with rolling your Bakugan and constructing a team. You almost get, like, an attachment to the things you bring instead of just, you know, a piece of shiny cardboard. We love the shiny paper, right? But having the, like, skill element to the game and having to land on specific cores, this is what makes Bakugan so unique. And it really warms my heart to see people that are, like, really wanting to get into it, especially people that were old fans. It's timeless. Bakugan is just timeless. It's so special. And people, even when I go out on hunts, people are like, wow, those still exist? Yes, they're back, and they're cooler than ever, honestly. It's just a matter of actually getting the cards back and keeping the community alive, and that's what we're all trying to do here. But seriously, guys, if my guide wasn't good enough, I have plenty of people that I know in the community, and I really hope you do too, because they're very good at what they do. They do competitive reviews. You have D-Heart, you've got Viva La Hunt. Haru does some really good competitive stuff. Go check them out and give them some Swarm love because they deserve it. They do, honestly, they're probably much more qualified. They're definitely much more qualified to talk about this on the competitive side. I'm kind of the neighborhood casual, so, you know, I'm going to naturally tell you to use what you enjoy. Yeah, I guess that's really about it. I mean, I'm sure there'll probably be some stuff that I forgot to cover. So if you have questions, please leave them in the comments. Maybe we can just keep adding rulings in the comment section and I can pin it for whatever I missed. But seriously, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you, especially with the Mythic thing. Like, seriously, go pick up Mythics before Wave 1 is gone, because Wave 2 isn't looking to be as good. But Wave 1 Mythics are insane. So if you're brand new to the game, get out there, go pick up some $5 Bakugan that are really strong, and they all work very well. I would highly advise not to miss out if you're interested in playing. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.